Hey, friend, welcome back to Grow My Business. I'm super excited for you to join me for today's episode. I have a special guest on with me today, Liz Kent from Liz Kent Coaching. Liz is a licensed therapist and business strategist turned mindset coach for ambitious mom entrepreneurs. As a mom of three, she knows firsthand how challenging it can be to grow a business while also raising a family. And she's passionate about helping other moms do it in a way that feels aligned, sustainable, and fulfilling. All the things that we talk about on this show. Before we dive into that, I want to share about my membership. It is called She Builds Momentum, and it is for female entrepreneurs that need a little bit of guidance, a little bit of help, but either don't have the budget to hire a higher ticket coach or doesn't have the time commitment to commit to weekly or multiple times a week of coaching. It's called She Builds Momentum. You can check it out at momentum.lindsayfletcher.co. It's $47 a month, but for the month of August, I'm giving up to 25 women a free month. You can use the code FIRST25, and when those codes run out, the first 25 women will get them, and when that code runs out, it is over. So snag your spot. You can cancel anytime. It is a low cost, low commitment where you get one group training per month, one coaching session per month, and weekly support inside of our online private community for members only. So check that out at momentum.lindsayfletcher.co. I'll link it in the show notes, and I'll also put the code there for you too. Okay, let's dive into today's episode. Okay, welcome back to Grow My Business. I have a friend on today, which I don't do very often, but I am really excited for you to meet Liz Kent. She is a therapist by education and training and now coaches mompreneurs. So welcome, Liz. And if you would take this opportunity to introduce yourself to the crew here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to chat with you again, Lindsay. I am a licensed therapist. I've been a therapist for 17 years, which every year I feel like that just sounds so old. Um, and my specialty is maternal mental health. So everything from perinatal through parenting, and just managing all the craziness of being a mom. And then I also started doing business coaching with moms who own small businesses, particularly like therapists and other people in the wellness space, because the kind of business model where you're in this like trading dollars for or hours for dollars. Like it feels like the only way to make more money is to work more and see more clients. And so trying to help them scale in a way that feels really sustainable and aligned. I'm a mom of three. My kids are 5, 8, and 10. So I get it. Like life is busy and trying to create more of the time and financial freedom that we all want while still being able to do work that lights us up is kind of my goal. So
Right? That's the dream of every entrepreneur, I think.
yeah,
I mean, at least every entrepreneur I know is to gain financial and time freedom so
yeah,
that they are not trading dollars or they're not trading time for dollars, right? So
correct.
talk a little bit about a little more about that. Dive into what that means, especially in the therapist space. I know I have a couple of
Yeah.
therapists that I can think of that actually do listen to this show, so this might help them out.
Yeah. 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 I think for therapists and other people and just because I connect with a lot of like PTs and other kind of wellness providers in the perinatal space. And I think we're trained in such a way with this like helping mindset that we end up being very self-sacrificial in the way we build a business, which is not something
Girl, you're
that you
speaking
teach
my
us.
language.
Yeah, not something that they teach us. Obviously, my master's is in social work, so it was almost like a badge of honor to be poor, you know? It's like
Yes,
we didn't go
yes.
into this for the money. Like we can't serve without being poor. And I held that mindset for a really long time. And it really, in the last couple years, I've had to do a ton of my own like money mindset work and what does it mean to be able to serve and bring in income that feels good and comfortable and can support my family and the lifestyle that I want to live. Um, and that can be really hard. So figuring out some ways where I'm like helping people kind of with the mindset stuff and and a lot of the strategy stuff, like where can we raise your rates? Can you go out of network with insurance? Where are you paying for outsourcing something that you don't need to? How else can you kind of work on managing your time and your budget for your business so that you can cut that out. And then looking at if there, are there any other sources of income streams that you want. I have a therapist that I work have, know who wrote a book. Like, how can we use that as kind of getting you some more passive income in ways so it doesn't just feel like you have to sit in back to back to back to back client sessions, which is mentally exhausting. And as a mom, like it's hard to go home and be present after a day like that.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And I have a very similar background being in audiology.
Mhm.
It is a well taught thing in the audiology space that you don't go into audiology, you don't get your doctorate to make a ton of money. And I
Yeah.
think that's so ridiculous
Yeah.
that we're spending all of this time and all of this energy to get these advanced degrees to be
And
able to
money
have,
and so much
yes,
money.
and money is so much money, right? And we go down those paths. Yes, of course we want to help people, but we also have to be able to pay our bills, and we also have to manage the line of like exhausting ourselves and wearing that so-called badge of honor of
Yeah.
burnout. I mean, there's such a line that so many of us have crossed in that space, and not just audiology, social work, physical
Yeah. Any
therapy,
any like
any.
helping type profession,
Yes,
really.
right. So I'd like to back this conversation up a little bit, and let's talk about when you first started your business.
Hmm.
What were then, because I think many of my listeners are in the trenches, right? They're
Yeah. Yeah.
building their business. They're not quite at a point where they can hire, or they're maybe
Yeah.
ready to take that next step, but they're scared.
Yeah.
Can you speak to kind of the triggers that should be visible or that they should be looking for when they're in that space of, I haven't hired anyone yet, but if I don't, I'm going to lose my mind, or
Yeah.
I'm going to close this down and go back to work for somebody else because I can't work this many hours. I can't continue down this path of what will eventually lead to burnout.
Yeah. Such a good question. I have really learned to lean into like trusting my instinct on things. And because so many times I have made business decisions where I had a gut feeling that something wasn't 100%. And gone on to be like, oh yeah, I shouldn't have hired that person or done whatever because it didn't feel right. So really trusting my instinct when things start to feel overwhelming. And one thing that I always have clients do is a values exercise where we go through a huge list of values and they're all good things, but highlighting the top five and looking at how are you spending your time, both, building your business and outside of work, and do they really line up with what are your values? How do you want to be spending your life with, for yourself, for your family? And I think as women, it's even harder. And as moms, it's even harder because we have that self-sacrificial message as moms too, that we're just supposed to be putting everybody else's needs first, but we can't help other people if we're not taking care of ourselves and
Right.
doing what we
You
need
can't
to.
pour from an empty cup, right? Like, it's a
Exactly.
ridiculous. I don't know. I don't. I. It's an American culture thing, of
It
course.
is.
Like,
It is.
where did we get to the point? And this is a
Yeah.
conversation for a later date. But
We could
where
have
did
a whole
we?
nother podcast
Yeah, we
episode
could
about
we
that.
could have a total podcast, like a whole podcast
Yeah.
on this particular subject. But where did we get to the point as women and as moms and as wives and as workers or business owners that we have to sacrifice everything and everyone, including ourselves,
Yeah.
to help others? That just
Right.
is ridiculous.
It's
I'm going
ridiculous.
to
And
say
it's
the
not
word ridiculous a
sustainable.
lot. It's not
Yeah.
sustainable.
Not
It's not.
sustainable.
And then we're
So
burnt out and then we want to quit, right?
yeah. 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 So I think really kind of like leaning into like, what do I want? What are my values? And then honestly, for me, having the support of coaches and masterminds and other women in business who kind of get it, and to be able to bounce ideas off of people and kind of get an outside perspective because we get so stuck in our heads and we talk so negatively to ourselves. Like we're so hard on ourselves, like we're not doing enough. We need to be doing more. And so having somebody to kind of like breathe new life into that on the outside perspective of, well, no, it doesn't have to be like this. You can build a business that feels good without burning yourself to the ground.
I love that. I had a coach, shout out to Lonnie if she's ever listening to this show. I had a coach one time say, you need to hire someone when you can make more money doing the thing that you're good at and doing the thing that fills you up than what it will cost you to hire someone to offload these tasks.
a
And
hundred
so
percent.
I think we try to do it all and we want to do it all because that's what we've been taught that
Yeah.
we should be doing. But really, if we're making more money, and this goes back to that mindset thing, right? Like
Hmm.
I listened to the Jennifer Allwood show. She's a business coach, and I just love her. She has a Christian perspective on business, but she said I listened to an episode recently, and she said when you make more money, you have a bigger impact because you have more to give. You have
Yeah.
employees that you can hire, and then they can support their families. So I think just in general, as women, we need to get out of this mindset that we have to do it all because we can
Yeah.
actually be a bigger blessing in the world when we make more money and when we hire
Yeah.
more people.
Yeah, 100%. And also just, thinking about, you said something earlier about when we're helping people, like we're also moms. So like having kids is a huge part of, like, we're raising human beings who are also going to go out and have impact, and like giving them experiences and things like that, and being able to like have the energy to be present and enjoy them is also, it's impacting them and shaping them into people who are also going to go out into the world and
Oh, absolutely.
potentially do amazing
Absolutely.
things.
And
So,
honestly, I call myself a hustle culture junkie. That was my life for a lot of years. I would shove 20 pounds of potatoes into a 5 pound sack. Like
yeah.
I'm the queen of it. I own the potato farm. Okay. Um, but, I have really tried hard in the last 5 or 6 years since moving into entrepreneurship and in quitting corporate America and moving on from that phase of my life, I've really tried to be intentional about setting boundaries and setting an example that I want my kids to follow
Yeah.
because they saw me doing the hustle culture. They saw me burning the candle at both ends. And I don't want that life for them
Yeah. Right.
more than I don't want it for myself. I don't want them to grow up thinking that that's what they should do or that's what they have to do
Right.
to make money, be successful, whatever they're gleaning from the situation, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Yeah. I totally agree with that. And I think something you said earlier too, just I think like particularly women who our moms who go into entrepreneurship are typically pretty like high functioning, high achieving. They're used to being able to do a lot of things. And so then it feels like, oh, I've always been so competent to get all the things done. And then when you're like running a business and running a home and have kid, and all the pieces, and it's just impossible for anyone realistically to do all the things, but we still are in that mindset of like, but I could always do all the things. I always like was able to check all the boxes like before I was a mom or before I, whatever. And so recognizing like our own humanity and practicing a lot of self-compassion in that too, because I think when you get sort of in, you're used to being able to accomplish so much that when you don't quite meet your goals, it hits that much harder.
Yeah, I agree. I recently was having this conversation with my husband. Like, I used to be able to get so much done in a day. Now, when I came home, I wasn't present. Like I was still running through the checklists of things in my mind that I needed to remember to do tomorrow, right? Or that I needed to make sure that I got done before I went to bed, after the kids were in bed or whatever. But I I had this conversation with him recently. Like I feel like I can't get as much done now.
Yeah.
But really, truly, I'm not I'm not burning myself out is what's
Yeah.
happening.
And you probably have more on your plate. I
Yes.
mean, just
Yes,
as
as a business owner.
like as a business owner and as you're growing, or even just with kids getting older. I mean, I've imagined when my kids were babies, like, oh, well, when they're in school, I'll have so much more free time. And now it's like, no, I'm helping them with projects and taking them to activities and coordinating their birthday party, like all the things. And it's like busy in a whole different way.
Yes.
So it's a lot to keep track of. It's just a lot of stuff to navigate.
It's funny. This is probably completely off subject. Not really, but it kind of is. So I used to work as an audiologist inside of an otologist office, and there was a nurse practitioner that I worked with that I loved. And she came in one day. Her kids were in high school and junior high. Like she was looking at like the exit of all of her
Yeah.
kids, right? Pretty quickly, within the next handful of years. And she came in one day and had put in her resignation. And I thought that was crazy. Like your kids are old, like your kids are
Yeah.
older. Like why would you be a stay-at-home mom now?
Yeah.
And I will never forget this because I'm living this now. But I,
Yeah.
I remember thinking, like, that's either stupid or it's super wise. I don't know which yet because I'm not in her shoes, but I'm going
Yeah.
to hang on to this piece of information and like store it in my back pocket. And I remember
Yeah.
her saying, my kids don't physically need me as much as they did when they were little. They emotionally need me. They
Yeah.
need me to be aware of what's
Yeah.
happening, and they need me to be aware of their friends and their behaviors and all of the things that you don't necessarily need to be aware of when you're just trying to keep them alive, fed, clothed, and bathed, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's the physical need time more so than the emotional need time. But
Yeah.
as they've grown up, they emotionally and spiritually need you to be present, right? And
Yeah.
so I remember her putting in her resignation, and now I'm living that out. My kids are 15, almost 16, 14, 11, and 7. I still have the wide range, but I'm in that like we're in
Yeah.
that high school, junior high, high school age range with three of them, and that is so specifically true.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're both draining. Like the
Yes,
parent in the early
yes,
years is draining, but you're using like a different emotional reserves to be able to meet their needs in different ways. And so I
yes.
think, a lot of, I mean, I envisioned like, why are people stay-at-home moms when their kids are in school full time and
Same,
even elementary school? Like,
same.
what do they do all day? And now I'm like, I could fill my days with like
100% with
1,000
kid
things.
things. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, and home and all the other
Yeah.
stuff. So I get it now.
Yeah, same, same. Let's talk about some strategies to grow our businesses in sustainable ways, knowing that we are women and we do want to help and we do want to serve everyone. What are some strategies that we can put in place, or some boundaries, or just some kind of like guidelines that you could help us with in growing our businesses, but doing it in a way that we're not going to end up quitting?
Oh, it's so hard because I know like we want to do it all, but I think finding some ways to outsource or hiring like before maybe even before you quite feel ready. I think you had said like when you're making enough money, to be making more doing like my hourly rate for therapy, yeah, I can pay somebody way less than that to do the admin stuff behind the scenes. Um, and I think also knowing like you have to invest in a as a business owner. You can't I'm not an expert in SEO or, technology related things, social media and all that stuff. So sometimes it does require kind of like that risk up front to be able to pull back in some of those areas and let things like flow a little bit more easily. I think setting boundaries like on our time and our energy just in general is so important. I know I've been talking with some therapists recently because I get a lot of inquiries for people who want therapy appointments in the evenings and on the weekends, and I have just never done that. I've never worked outside of the hours that my kids were in daycare, um, or school because I don't just want to see them. I also would like to see my husband and like have a normal schedule and have time to like go to dinner with a girlfriend or whatever.
Amen to that.
Yeah, yeah. So it's not, I don't want to be, I never want it to be like ships passing in the night with him
Hmm.
in childcare, trying to make the childcare work. So we figured out how to make that work and set those boundaries. So I just have always, nope, sorry, I don't have those hours and stuck to
Right.
it.
I
And
will say that's something that we've done in our local service-based business as well. A lot of the companies in the industry that we're in are open on Saturdays. And
Mhm.
we set that boundary when we first opened. Hey, this is family time for us. We are not open on Saturdays. If that's a requirement for you, we won't be the best fit for you. But
Yeah,
also, we knew that we would be hiring people, going forward. We would have to hire to scale our business. And so
yeah,
we also want that boundary for them. Like it's not
right.
just about
Yes,
us. We want them to have the boundary of they get Saturday and Sunday off as well. Like
Yeah.
we all have to have lives outside of our businesses. And I think that's one of the pitfalls that we all fall, that a lot of us fall into is thinking
Yeah.
that our business has to be 24/7. It does not.
Yeah, 100%. And I know you like cut off the screen time or social media and stuff and being able to like set those kind of boundaries too. And it's scary. It's scary to say no when you get somebody who wants to hire you and you you don't want to give in to their hours. And you feel that push pull of like, but I want the money. I need the money. But really just trusting that like it's going to work out. The right people are going to come along. You're going to be able to fill your schedule and build up from there, but holding those boundaries. And I think like holding boundaries just in general in life is like so helpful because again, like a lot of female entrepreneurs tend to be like very go-getter. And so I am the type of person who like when the emails come out to send things in for school or to sign up to volunteer and stuff, I'm usually like one of the first ones to respond and recognizing that like I have to set some boundaries on my energy, like where I'm using my energy too, that I can't sign up for everything. I can't volunteer for everything. I can't always be the one to send the snack for the T-ball game and like that kind of stuff. So um setting boundaries on our energy and saying no to things too, I think is really important.
We, there's a book called, I think, The Perfect Yes. If I can remember to put it in the show notes, I will link it on Amazon or something. I don't make money off of any of that, but I think it's called The Perfect Yes, but I will link, I'll try to remember to, um, but it talks about being quick to say no and slow to say yes.
Hmm.
If it's not a heck yes, it's a no,
Yeah,
right? Like if it's not something that, now listen, we have all have to do things we don't want to do. Like
right.
I don't want to clean my bathrooms, but we have to do it, right? Like
Right.
I don't, like there are things on our to-do list and to make our households function and to like, just being an you have to be an adult. You have to do things you don't want to
Yeah.
do. However, there are some things that we do need to say no to. And I'm in a season right now where I really want to be super present for my teenagers and
Mhm.
and my other two that are not teenagers, but specifically for them, I want to be
Yeah.
super present. And so I'm having to say no to some of the speaking engagements and some of the trainings are that are people are wanting to schedule
Yeah.
during the times that I am in the car with them. That, like I would be picking them up for practice because I want to be the one that sees them directly after those things and said, "Hey, how'd it go?" Or, "Hey, what'd you work
Yeah.
on today?" Or, the more questions you ask teenagers, sometimes they'll open up, and we have learned as parents, I mean, we're a first time parent to a 15-year-old. Like we've never done this before, right? But what
Yeah.
we've learned over time is that when we ask questions and we're present and can dive into some of those things, they can and will open up sometimes,
Yeah.
sometimes,
Especially
not
when they're
always.
trapped in the car with you,
Yes,
right?
they
There's
don't
nowhere to
have
go.
an escape route, right?
Yeah.
Tuck and roll is not an option
I do
on,
feel like car conversations can be some of the best because
Yes, yes,
they're kind, there's nowhere to
yeah,
go. There's nothing else to distract
right. And
and I think
another,
also there's something about the not looking eye to eye. And I've
yes.
talked about this like in some of my podcast episodes because my husband and I do a weekly like it's like our prayer night, we check
Mm-hmm.
in stuff, and we usually sit on our bed and don't face each other. And so I've talked about how I think this is like, and I do walk and talk therapy sessions, like
Yep.
that it feels less vulnerable when
Yes.
we're not like staring someone in the eyes or feeling like they're looking intently into our soul about like what
Yes.
we share next. And so it's easier sometimes to share some of that hard stuff
Yes.
because of the positioning.
Yes. Agreed. Agreed. 100%. And so, I'm building my consulting business, my coaching. I don't know that it's actually coaching, but my coaching consulting business, I'm building it around my family's schedule right now.
Yeah,
Now, I recognize I have the luxury of doing that because we have another business that supports our family
right.
100%. Now, we do rely on this business's my consulting business's income for some things, but
Yeah,
it's not, we're not relying on this business, my consulting business to pay all the bills. So
right.
I realize I have that luxury, but had we not set the boundary early in the service-based business that we don't work Saturdays and that we don't work past 5,
Yeah.
we could be working 24/7.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure that there are
I mean, there's
emergencies and stuff that
right,
happen
right,
outside of those hours all the
right.
time. But it is really interesting. I mean, maybe for some of the stuff with pools, it's a little bit more urgent, but it's interesting because I've definitely had people, say I can only meet on Thursdays at 8 p.m. And then I'm like, well, this is what I have. And they're like, okay, I can make that work. So I think we forget that like setting boundaries with
Yes,
people sometimes pushes them into like they're testing our boundaries.
yes,
Just, they're
yes,
trying to get what they want, what's the best for them, but that
right.
doesn't, it's not the best for you. It's okay to say no. And
I can't
sometimes
make that work.
adapt. Or even like in my therapy practice, when I went out of network, I had some people who were like, I can't pay that. And I've had people come back to me a year or more later and said, I can't find anybody else that takes insurance that I want to meet with. So I'm going to come back to you. And they figure out how to make it work. So
Yes,
I think it's a
yes,
lot of that. I think we don't make a lot of decisions in business out of fear of what's going to happen. So just like taking the leap and trusting that you can adjust. Like I could go back
yes,
in network with insurance if I wanted to. I could add evening hours if I wanted to. Like nothing is set in stone.
right. I think that's also that's definitely an important thing is I would encourage any of my listeners to set the boundary early and you can
Yeah.
change where the boundary line is. But if you set it too wide, then you're setting the expectation you're available 24/7 or that
Yeah.
you're gonna,
It's hard to rein it back in once
right.
you've,
It's really hard to move it once it's wide, but if you start narrower and say, no, right now my hours are 8 to 5 or 9 to 5, or let's say you're working something part-time right now, right? Or it's a side hustle, like, hey, I only work on this from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. on Saturday mornings or Sunday, whatever that looks like, right?
yeah.
Or after my kids are in bed, I take 1 hour in the evening to work on
Right.
this business. So I think it's important to I want to encourage those of you who are listening that are maybe in the early stages of your business and you're trying to
Mhm.
figure out what those boundaries are. Keep it small, like keep it narrowed. And you can always widen it later as you take on
Yeah.
more clients, as you figure out what works best for you and your business at the same
Yeah.
time.
And don't
Because some,
overthink it. Like just
yes,
keep it simple. Like do what feels, again, like trust your gut. If this is what feels right, set it. You're allowed to make adjustments later. I
yes.
think we don't give ourselves like a permission to make, change our minds about things and
Oh
circumstances
my gosh,
change,
yes.
life changes, and you're allowed to do that. So
And seasons change. Like
yeah,
where I, when my kids first started school, I was a busy corporate America full-time working mom who also traveled. Like in that season, we made it work. In
yeah,
this season, we're doing something completely different.
yeah.
And it's okay to adjust your business based on the seasons that you're in.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, I've just seen that to be so needed as kids grow and change and family dynamics change and what they need, what you need, recognizing that it's okay to like to shift and meet those needs.
Yep, and your ideal customer might shift in those seasons as well. So
100%. Yeah.
it's okay to change kind of who you're serving or your niche of people that you serve might shift a little bit. Like if you're a mompreneur
Yeah.
coach or you serve women um, who also happen to be moms, you may find that you start serving them as toddler moms
Hmm.
and then because your season of life is changing out of toddler moms, then you start serving school age moms. And then
Yeah.
the school age moms turn into like, the kids who are now into high school. So it just
Right.
depends on what season your customers are in as well.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, I'm sure there's lots of other tips and strategies, like practical stuff in terms of organizing your time. But
Yeah.
I think the mindset piece around setting boundaries is probably and trusting your instinct are like probably
Yes.
the two biggest things of
Yep.
just how to make decisions, um, and giving yourself permission to change your mind.
Okay, I want to go back really quickly. You said earlier in our conversation about hiring the right person and trusting your instincts and all of that. Can you speak
Hmm.
to that a little bit more?
Yes. So at one point I had grown my therapy practice to not a huge group, but a group practice with a handful of therapists and an admin. And I have actually since scaled back because I had this gut feeling for a long time that that was not working for me and for my family life. And it was not as financially uh, beneficial as I had hoped it would be. So making some adjustments. But there are definitely a couple of times when I hired an admin, I can think of a therapist where I just had this feeling that it just wasn't 100%, but I really needed to get somebody in that role. Like we had a wait list for therapy, or I just needed somebody to take some things off of my plate and my admin had left or whatever. And I kind of hired somebody who was convenient, knowing that it didn't sit 100% right with me, and then finding out within pretty short period of time that it was not a good decision. And so kind of
Hmm.
learning from that of like, it's really got to feel like the right decision, even when though it sucks when you're like, you need to hire somebody but like knowing that you're going to have to train them and stuff. And so if it's not the right
Yes.
person, you're spending more time training or fixing things, like it's just going to cause you so much more stress in the long run. So just holding out again, trusting that like the right person is going to come along and
Yes.
it'll
Yes.
it'll work out, something will work out. But yeah, I think kind of hiring out of urgency is not a good place.
100%. And I will echo exactly what you said. When there is I would say to anyone that's considering hiring someone, whether it's a contract, like a 1099 contract where you're kind of
Hmm.
subbing out some of your work, you're not
Yeah.
maybe hiring a part-time employee or a full-time, no matter who you're hiring or what position, I would think through what the red flags for that position might be,
Yeah.
right? Like think about the person you want to hire, who would be perfect for the position, and then also think about someone who wouldn't be ideal and what those red flags might be.
Yeah.
And when a red flag flies, when a red flag comes up, trust it.
Yeah. And cut it off sooner than later. Like, don't
Yes.
wait to see if it's going to get figured out, or maybe you question yourself or whatever. Just, it's okay to just put
Yes.
the nix on it and move on.
Yes. And I would say that even in the hiring process, even if you've extended an offer, if red flags come up after that, you don't have to move forward.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's really hard as women who like
Yes.
we're culturally conditioned to do a lot of people pleasing
Uh-huh.
and feeling bad and thinking about the feelings of the other person,
Hmm.
but knowing that that's not really the best way to make decisions for your business that are going
Hmm.
to really serve you.
Yes. Yes, for sure. We could, man, maybe we should reconvene on another episode and talk about all the stupid things we've done in hiring because we've done
Yeah.
some, like we've not listened to our gut and we've not listened to those red flags and we've just kind of been like, it'll be okay, it'll be okay. And man,
Yeah.
when those red flags come up now, we know, we don't move forward.
Yeah.
There's a red flag here. Even if we
Yeah.
can't, even if we can't say exactly what the red flag is or pinpoint
Yes.
exactly what's wrong, when our gut is telling us something's off, it always is. It always
Yeah.
has been.
Yeah, for sure. I 100% agree. I think it's taken me a long time to learn like how to trust my
Yes.
instincts. And now I'm like, man, I actually have pretty good instinct on stuff
Yes.
most of the time. So I should be listening to that more.
Yes, for sure, for sure. I agree. It's taken me a long time too, but now when those things come up or I just don't feel right, I'm like, we can't move forward with this person. It's not, there's
Yeah.
something off. There's
But I
something off
think to
here.
be able to get to that point of introspection, you have to do a lot of the like inner work,
Yes.
And so as an entrepreneur, you have to, I mean, I think I've done more work, inner work in some ways on like money mindset and this kind of stuff as an entrepreneur in a couple of years than I have in like years of being in my own therapy
Oh,
sessions, you
same.
know? And so knowing that you're going to have to deal with all your stuff when you go into it, and
Yes.
being okay with that, and knowing like you're going to come out better on the other side, but
Yes.
it might be rough pushing through.
Yes. Yes, for sure. For sure. Okay, Liz, I feel like I could talk to you for days and days and days about all
Yes,
the things
we'll
business.
do another one.
We'll have
We'll
to
do
do another
another
one.
one on my podcast.
Yes,
We'll just
yes.
keep sharing.
We'll have to, yeah, we'll just have to keep going back and forth and just, be a like a serial guester or something on each other's.
Yeah.
Okay, Liz, tell everyone where they can find you. Tell them about your podcast. I want them to be able to connect with you because you are gold.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, I post a lot on Instagram. I'm just at Liz Kent Coaching, and that's my website as well, lizkentcoaching.com. And I have a podcast as well, The Thriving Mompreneur. So lots of stuff that's kind of just about mom life, like navigating special ed services for your kids and things like that. That kind of fall on the mental load of moms, which is a lot on top of running a business. And then also episodes on strategy, mindset, growing a business, hearing stories from other women who've grown their businesses. So that's just the Thriving Mompreneur, and it's on Spotify, Apple, all the regular.
All
I heard
the major platforms. I will
major
link
platforms. Yeah.
your Instagram and I'll link your website and also your podcast in the show notes
Awesome.
when this airs. Do we still call it airing? I've said this
Oh, I
before.
don't know.
I'm like, well, I don't know. Anyway, whenever this gets published, I guess is the word
Yeah,
now,
when it
right?
goes out
Published.
officially.
Yes, I will link all of your links in the show notes so people can find you. Thank you so much for
Awesome. Yeah, thank you
being
so much
on
for
the
having
show
me.
today. And yeah, connect with Liz. She's amazing. Her podcast is awesome. I've actually been a guest on her podcast. I don't know at the time of this recording if it has been published yet, but I'll link that episode as well if you'd like to.
As of right now, it has not, but you're on the
Yes,
schedule. It will be out this summer.
perfect. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Liz. Thank you
Yeah, thank
for
you,
sharing all
Lindsay,
of
for
your wisdom, and I will talk to you soon.
talk to you soon. Thanks so much
Thanks.
for having me.
Thank you so much to Liz Kent for joining me for this episode of Grow My Business. I have linked all of her links in the show notes so you can definitely connect with her. And I've also linked the podcast episode where I was a guest on her show. If you'd like to start there, I would love that. And make sure to download it because that's how Apple and Spotify and all the places know to send shows out to more people and to suggest them to more people. So definitely make sure that you download that show, that specific episode, so that her show gets a boost. Okay, one more time. If you are looking for a little bit of help, a little bit of coaching, a little bit of training, She Builds Momentum monthly group training and coaching program is built for you. Check it out at momentum.lindsayfletcher.co and you can use the code FIRST25, that's FIRST, the numbers 25 for the first month off for the first 25 members to join. So join me at momentum.lindsayfletcher.co. Link is in the show notes. And thank you so much for joining me for this episode. This is a little longer than normal, so I hope you enjoy it. As always, I'm praying for you and I'm praying for your business, and I'll talk to you next week.